Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye ashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki om jnanatimirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're reading today from Canto 10, chapter 33, and the chapter is called the Rasa Dance, and we're reading verse 17 to 19. And I don't know, Damodar Priya, would you be able to maybe share your screen and put it up? Because I have some issue with my computer. It couldn't start up. So I can't share my screen.
Let me pull it up real quick. 1 second. Chapter 33, verses 17 to 19.
Yeah. While you're pulling it up, I'm just going to read the last verse, text 16. It's a very nice verse. So it says, in this way, Lord Krishna, the original Lord Narayana, master of the goddess of fortune, took pleasure in the company of the young women of Vraja by embracing them, caressing them, and glancing lovingly at them, as he smiled his broad, playful smiles. It was just as if a child were playing with his own reflection. So we'll return to the statement that it was just as if a child were playing with his own reflection. That's very, very significant. So text 17. Tadanga sangha pramudakulendriya keshandukulam kuchapattikamba nanja prativyodhum alam vrajastriyo virastamala bharana kurutvaha. Tat, with him, angasanga, from the bodily contact, pramuda, by the joy, akula, overflowing, indriyaha, whose senses, keshan, their hair, dukulam, dresses, kucha, partikam, the garments covering their breasts, va, or na, nut, anja, easily, prativyodhum, to keep properly arranged, alam, capable, vrajastriyaha, the women of Vraja, vishrasta, scattered, mala, their flower garlands, abharana, and ornaments, kuru udvaha, O eminent member of the Kuru dynasty. Their senses overwhelmed by the joy of having his physical association. The Gopis could not prevent their hair, their dresses, and the cloths covering their breasts becoming disheveled, their garlands and ornaments scattered, O hero of the Kuru dynasty. Next verse. Krishna vikreditam viksha Mumuhu kechara striyaha Kamardita shashankascha Sagano vishmito bhava. Krishna vikriditam, the playing of Krishna. Viksha, seeing. Mumuhu, became entranced. Kechara, traveling in the sky. Striyaha, the women. Kama, by lusty desires. Arditaha, agitated. Shashankaha, the moon. Cha, and also Saganaha, with his followers, the stars. Vismitaha, amazed, Abhava, became. The wives of the demigods, observing Krishna's playful activities from their airplanes, were entranced and became agitated with lust. Indeed, even the moon and his entourage, the stars, became astonished. Kritva tavantamadmanam yavatir gopayoshitah reme cha bhagavangstabhir atmaramo pililaya. Kritva, making, tavantam, expanded that many times, atmanam, himself, yavatihi, as many as, gopayoshitah, cowherd women, reme, enjoyed, saha, he, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, tabihi, with them, atmaramaha, self-satisfied, api, although, lilayaha, as a pastime. Expanding himself as many times as there were cowherd women to associate with, the Supreme Lord, though self-satisfied, playfully enjoyed their company. Purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out, it has already been explained that Lord Krishna is eternally free from all material desire, perfect on the platform of spiritual satisfaction. Kam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatam ham vande shri gurum dinatarinam. So we're in this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Krishna is actually dancing with the Gopis. We have heard in previous verses how they're singing, Krishna is singing and the Gopis are singing with him. Sometimes one Gopi sings along, sometimes another one. And they are embracing, they're dancing together. It's a very astonishing pastime, how the Supreme Personality of Godhead enjoys. When the British, they conquered India, they brought along their Victorian morality. And they took great objection, especially towards the personality of Krishna, dancing and enjoying these affairs, these romantic affairs, in the middle of the night with so many women. This was like so much against their own Christian conception of God. But we see how Krishna is defying all of that and showing himself to be the most complete personality of Godhead, who displays the original romance and attraction between male and female. It's so foundational to the material world. It's the reason why the material world exists. It's called the Adi Rasa, the foundational rasa. It's what makes the world go around. Quite literally, without union between male and female, there's no procreation. So quite literally, it makes the world go around. But it's also making the world go round in terms of it's so much absorption goes into it, because that's where enjoyment, material enjoyment, reaches its height. So how could that not exist in its original form, in the Supreme Lord, the origin of everything? Janmadya asya yataha. The Supreme Truth, from whom everything comes, from whom everything emanates. And as it said here, that Krishna is eternally free from material desire. It's when Krishna wants to enjoy, he is Param Brahma, Param Dham, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Arjuna said. He's the Param Brahma, the absolute truth, the supreme Brahman, the greatest of all. Brahman means the greatest of all beings, to whom no one else is greater. Param Dham, he's the supreme refuge and abode of everything. Pavitram, and he's completely pure. And Paramam, he's completely transcendental. This is Arjuna's realization after hearing from Krishna and realizing Krishna's divinity and supremacy. So Srila Prabhupada, he writes he speaks about this in a lecture, and it's in the introduction to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. If the Param Brahma, if the supreme pure, the absolute truth wants to enjoy, why would he want to enjoy some paltry material pleasure, which is temporary and fleeting? Why would he? No, he expands his own very own pleasure potency in order to enjoy. It says here, Re me, he enjoyed. In verse 19, Bhagavan, he enjoyed. So he expands for him to enjoy. He does not enjoy the material potency, the Maya potency. He expands his Yoga Maya potency to enjoy. As mentioned in the previous purport of verse 16, yesterday's verses, that all the Gopis are expansions of Krishna's internal potency. And when he wants to enjoy, he expands his internal potency, specifically his pleasure potency, manifested by Srimati Radharani. So it's said in the Brahma Samhita, there's a very nice verse. Ananda Chinnamayasa Pratibhavitabhi Stabirya Eva Nitya Rupataya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasatya. So Krishna, he resides in Goloka, in the eternal spiritual world called Goloka, along with Nija Rupataya, with the reflection of his own form. What is Krishna's form? Satchit Ananda Vigraha. His form is eternal. Chit, it's fully conscious, full of knowledge, and Ananda, full of bliss. Krishna's form is completely transcendental. And so the expansions of his pleasure potency, they're also reflections of his own form. They're also purely transcendental, also purely Satchit Ananda. And they are absorbed in Ananda Chinnamaya Rasa, in the essence of Ananda, of bliss and knowledge. Ananda Chinnamaya Rasa, Pratibhavitabhas. That means they're steeped in this Ananda Chinnamaya Rasa. It's a mellow, spiritual mellow, which is Ananda, full of bliss and full of consciousness, full of knowledge and awareness, spiritual awareness. And with these, it says Kalabihi. All these gopis, they're all kala. They're all expansions of Radharani, who's the pleasure potency, the expansion of Krishna's own form, the reflection of his own form, or his, as Prabhupada says, his spiritual counterpart, his consort, With her, he enjoys eternally, and she expands in all the gopis, who are all manifestations of this ananda chinnamaya rasa, this rasa, this mellow, conjugal mellow, full of bliss and spiritual awareness. So with them he resides in Goloka, with them he enjoys, and he does forever free from any association with the material potency. So that's why it said in verse 16 how Krishna enjoys as a child enjoys with its own reflection. It's his own expansions. It's his own potency enjoys with nothing external to him. So that is such an important point, which is emphasized again and again, especially by Srila Prabhupada and Shukadeva Goswami, following Shukadeva Goswami really, that when Krishna enjoys, it's not material, it's purely spiritual. He enjoys his own potency, which is like a reflection of his own Satchit Ananda form. And also a difference between Krishna's enjoyment and our enjoyment is that we feel unfulfilled. Our status quo in the material world is a feeling of being unfulfilled. And so we're trying to fill that void. From that void, desire comes. We feel unfulfilled, so we desire this and that to fill that void. So we're not satisfied. We're not full in ourselves. We're trying to fill that void with different kinds of enjoyments, of which conjugal enjoyment is just one. But Krishna, doesn't feel void. He doesn't feel incomplete. He is complete in himself. But he just further expands his enjoyment in this way. That's why he's mentioned he's Atma Rama. He's completely self-satisfied. But at his pastime, he's by nature joyful, and his joy just expands unlimited and manifests in like unlimited pastimes. So that's the difference between material enjoyment and the spiritual enjoyment of Bhagavan, of the Supreme Lord. He's already full in itself. He's like an ocean of joy, and it's anandam buddhivardhanam. That ocean unlimitedly expands in these unlimited pastimes, but there's never a feeling of lack. Even if Krishna feels a lack, then even that lack is not a feeling of enjoyment. By his own, that's all a manifestation of his own potency. If Krishna feels like without Radharani, my life is incomplete, that's another manifestation of his own completeness. Because he does feel complete, but he allows himself to feel incomplete. And that further expands the lila, the pastimes. So it's very inconceivable to us, coming from the material vantage point, to really understand these loving affairs. And that's why they're actually fully understood by liberated souls. This section is really for the liberated souls, not for the conditioned souls. Because we're so much stuck in our own unfulfilled desires, and conditioned souls are stuck in their own unfulfilled desires and tend to project that on Krishna. It's hard for us to understand how Krishna's enjoyment is not on that platform of filling the void. But Atma Ramas, liberated souls who are also full in themselves, who are spiritually satisfied, they can fully appreciate these pastimes. Shukadeva Goswami being one of them. It said that Shukadeva Goswami, he was actually completely self-realized. He was situated in impersonal realization, but he was Atma Rama. He was fully satisfied in himself. And he had no attraction to the material nature and to the material varieties. But only when he heard the pastimes of Krishna, the verses from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, then that changed his mind. He became attracted to that, although he could not be attracted to anything material. So even the liberated souls, and that's another sign how transcendental these pastimes are, that liberated souls who are completely free from any kind of sex desire, they're still attracted to these pastimes because they are completely transcendental. So also that's why it says, Atma Ramas Chamunaya Nirgrantyapya Urukrame Kurantya Haita Kim Bhaktim Itam Bhuta Guno Hari. That the Atma Ramas, the self-satisfied souls, they always when they come in touch with pure bhakti, when they come in contact with Bhagavan, they also become attracted. He is Itam Bhuta Guno Hari. He has such wonderful spiritual qualities, that attractive qualities, Krishna, all attractive, that even the most elevated saints who are completely satisfied in themselves, they still become attracted to him, although they're not attracted to anything else. And and as a result, they continuously become absorbed in bhakti, in hearing and chanting about Krishna. And there's many examples of that, such as you hear about the Kumaras who became attracted to Vishnu when they got in touch with his personal features. So yeah, that is we always have to look at these pastimes from that point of view. Always keep that in mind. And this way, when we hear in the right way, we can also become attracted. And param drishtva nivartate, when we relish Krishna's pastimes, when we actually come to that platform, we will forget about all material enjoyment. Will no longer be pleasing to us. But in the conditioned state, we still cannot fully appreciate those pastimes. So we have to gradually hear and chant, especially chant Krishna's holy names, purify our heart, Cetodarpana Marjanam. And the more hearts become purified and these pastimes reflect in our pure heart, the more we can become attracted to them and forget about material enjoyment. Unless we attain that kind of higher taste, higher attraction, it will be very hard for us to overcome material attraction. So we have to purify ourselves, hear about Krishna's pastimes in sequence, including this pastime, and in this way become more and more attracted to Krishna. So, yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to see if anyone has anything to add or has any question to ask.
So if anybody has any reflections or questions, this is your time to either raise your virtual hand, unmute yourself, or Vasudeva Prabhu is generous enough to give us a whole 15 minutes for Q&A before darshan. So let's take advantage and honor that, please, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay? Vasudeva.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Prabhupada. We're
Yes,
praying
Prabhu.
to show Prabhupada what to say. Because, sometimes you say, what would you like to say? I hope it's not what I'd like to say, but what Srila Prabhupada would ask of us. And you mentioned, first class, wonderful class. You mentioned that the British, the Western, when they became magistrates in India, they were shocked and they couldn't relate to the idea of this Krishna dancing in the forest at night with many girls not married, and that this was beyond their conception of morality. We know Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, great-grandfather Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he found in his service as a magistrate, there was a report of one powerful yogi who was imitating Krishna and dancing with girls in the night, and many girls, and he understood that although Krishna, like you pointed out, Krishna might do things because of his totally pure and transcendental motivation and his genuine love, without any tinge of lust, he might do things that an ordinary person can't understand. And it was quite radical. Srila Prabhupada came here at a time when every shred of morality and standard of proper behavior, sexuality, intoxication, even bodily dress, the hippie culture was there with much nakedness and promiscuity and rampant, and saying that these restrictions were Victorian and oppressive and just based on limiting our enjoyment. So when Prabhupada came and he asked his disciples, please shave your head. Please, girls, dress in a conservative way with a sari. Radical, very radical, even today. Anyone asking a girl to cover her hair, that was like very radical. We're reading in the Bible. It says that you look in the Muslim tradition, in the Jewish tradition, in the Christian tradition, the pictures of Mary and the pictures of the Mother Jasoda, they always have a veil to cover the head. So Prabhupada had offered these regulative principles and this conservative idea, and then as gradually we drift away a little bit from Prabhupada's personal presence, he would say to his disciples, "Oh, you're keeping hair? There's more to it than just shaving your head. There's a full-time dedication to devotional service, and there's a control of the senses, and giving ourselves to Krishna's mission." But these days, if you mention, even one time I mentioned recently, the idea that Srila Prabhupada recommended that a girl who is not looking for paramour, that she conservatively cover the hair, and this apparently my understanding of how to present it. Let's just say it was right. Hamsatuda told us 3 Matajis in Mayapur came to see Prabhupada in his room. They said, "Prabhupada, we are not being respected." And Prabhupada said, "We're not exactly interested in being respected. We want to be respectable. Why your head is not covered? If you're not, if you have a husband and why not do this, So this subject matter of the fact that Krishna and the Gopis with loosened hair and embracing people who you're not married to can do like that, but on our own part, for us to accept some guidelines, these days it seems like maybe even what I said just now might not be received very properly, but you are, I look up to you as somebody more mature than I am. I want to be like you when I grow up, so maybe you can comment on my comment and correct me. Radical. walking into dangerous ground here with the subject matter. It was a little bit of a rambling share. We'll just toss you the ball and see what you do with it because we trust your erudition.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Adi Prabhu. Yeah, it's a wonderful topic you bring up. It's not exactly the topic of the verses and the class. So I'd like to really keep focused on that with your permission, and not drift off in. Although it's an interesting subject, and this way also can avoid any controversial issues.
We don't do like that.
Yeah.
Gopis do like that to say with Krishna, but an ordinary person of this world would not go in the forest with a person at night or, loosen their hair. But maybe, I thought it was on the subject. I'm sorry, I misinterpreted. But I prayed to Prabhupada, what can we speak about? Purva Paksha means, there's this subject, and then on the other hand, how do we apply it in our life? You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. You can go on to the next person. I'm sorry, Hare Krishna. I'll go to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yeah, we do have Bhima Prabhu and Vanisha who have their hands up as well.
Haribol.
Haribol, Bhima Prabhu.
Haribol Prabhu. How are you doing? What a wonderful class. It's nice to hear every aspect of the rasa, every aspect of this lila being backed up with scripture that you have gone out of your way to learn and to relate to us, us less well-read or with not as strong a memory. It is a wonderful thing that we as devotees have this lila, this play of Krishna and the Gopis with us always. And we never need to be separated from it in regards to protecting ourselves. As we can protect ourselves, by shaving our hair. I'm more guilty than any woman. I'm more guilty than any woman. I need all the help I can get, So anyways, we're in this world. We're in this world, and no amount of of covering your head or shaving your head. I had the same desires I had when I was shaved up as a young man as I do now as an old man with 2 foot long hair. The same desires are there. It's our heart. It's our heart which needs to be atmaram, self-satisfied with this lila. I think that we should all have faith to understand that Prabhupada said in a purport, and I wish I had it in front of me. He said that if you do not study this lila, respectfully, of course, but if you do not study Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, if you do not read about these things, then you will seek this satisfaction outside yourself. You will seek that intimacy. You will seek that bliss, that shelter, that surrender, that love outside yourself in this world. And no amount of artificial covering externally of the head for the women is going to keep her from being subtly or verbally impinged upon by men. And no amount of the shaving of heads. We've had tens of thousands of people with shaved heads. And how many of them were made pure by shaving their head? This lila, this reading of this lila, this spending time in the morning alone, reading about Krishna's beautiful pastimes as described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. If we hanker to at least imagine ourselves, because everything, all this karma, whether it be pure karma or karma of this world, all of it begins in the head, and the head begins in the heart, and the heart can be dovetailed to repeated readings and to understanding, as Adi Purush always says, there's another world. I always ask him what the Sanskrit is. Prabhu, actually, could you just repeat the Sanskrit and that the phrase that there is another, there is, yes, go on.
Beyond this world that we see, there's another dimension of existence, and it's different. It's eternal.
So that's the faith. That's the faith that we have, that there's another dimension to which we are welcome to dovetail all these propensities to love and be loved. And I just wanted to thank you for bringing that up and for covering how important it is for us to focus on Krishna's pastimes, because it is fulfilling that if we should be disturbed by something in this world, we have to understand it for what it is. And then we have to dive deep within ourselves, open up the Bhagavatam and say, Krishna, please show me what I have that I'm waiting for. Show me what I'm waiting for. Give me a why. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry,
Hare Krishna.
we also had Venisha's hand up before that. Just if we could just have her quickly, since we're speaking about women and covering, I think it would be nice to hear from a female body devotee. So Venisha Prabhu, please go ahead.
Good.
I wish my hair were covered right now. I'm going, although I appreciate and so appreciate the conversation about, and what Adi said was so meaningful. It's not about being respected, it's about being respectable. But just tangent, if I may, Vasudeva, and just always so appreciate your clear explanations of everything. Really helped me anyway appreciate the way to not view this through our everyday lens. But I had a sort of an insight as you were speaking of that Krishna is, his joy is so, do you ever have that feeling like you just are so happy you want to explode? You know, you just want to, you have this vision of him. He's so powerful. His joy literally does explode into the form of other, of the gopis. They are his explosions of happiness. And then, you know, the Leela and goes on, and then they together create more happiness and joy. And it just keeps going to a point of almost, I mean, obviously to inconceivable ecstasy. And I really appreciate the way you made that so clear, that this is these gopis are Krishna, just like his reflection, like a child looks at their reflection. So I appreciate that. But while we have you, and other speakers have addressed this, why is Srimati Radharani not mentioned? Why is, because it's so important to our lineage, and yet you miss her here almost most of all by name. Why? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, if in 2 minutes. Thank you.
That's a very beautiful point, Venisha. Thank you. Yeah, she's almost more present by not being mentioned. That
Yes,
it's something which is so sacred and so confidential, is kept like secret and confidential. In this way, she's almost like more glorified because she's so precious to Krishna. She's such a confidential truth, really, that that she's understated. Even though other like lesser prominent Puranas do mention her by name, but the Bhagavatam, which is the main text about Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, revealed to the world, and that she's like kept a little hidden, and that makes her more special in a way. Like for example, nowadays we post deity pictures everywhere, right? Like the darshan today, you can find it on your WhatsApp, but there's certain deities which you just can't find pictures of. Only paintings like Srinathi or Venkateshwar. You only can see that deity it's confidential, and that makes it so much more special. You really have to go on pilgrimage in order to get the darshan of the deity. Sometimes stand in line for hours, and then you get a glimpse, and it's such an experience. So by keeping something more concealed and more confidential, you actually can expand. You glorify that person in a different way. And another way is the appendix to Krishna's Leela is Gaura Leela. It's the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's his Leelas completes the Bhagavatam, where the Bhagavatam mentions Radharani in a more hidden way. She is definitely mentioned. She is definitely highlighted as the person who who's more exalted than all the other gopis. That's why Krishna took her aside. She's also mentioned later on in the Bhagavatam when she's talking to the bee in almost madness, in separation from Krishna. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his pastimes, he exhibits that mood of Radharani, that madness in love. And in this way, what was hidden before became like fully manifest. That tattva, or that truth of Srimati Radharani, became fully manifest in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. He really filled in that confidential secret in great detail, and so we can fully appreciate it. So they go side by side, and that's why whenever Krishna appears in his original form, shortly after he appears in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to fully exhibit the glories of those pastimes, and specifically the glories of Srimati Radharani.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So I
And
think
speaking of, it looks like we're going to have darshan now, everyone.
Yeah, as Bhima Prabhu said, we have to really cultivate our attraction to Krishna. Without that, it's very hard to overcome material attraction. So we have this beautiful opportunity by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, reading these pastimes, and also seeing the deity, that we can develop that spiritual attraction. Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Muridhar ki jai.
Sean.
Sorry, still muted. Thank you so much, Hari Purusha Prabhu, for that darshan. We always appreciate getting a chance to see Radha Muridhar, Gaurachandra, and all the beautiful devotees that serve them. And thank you to everyone for participating in class. For those of you who had your hands up or had questions or comments and didn't get to share this time, please come again tomorrow. We have amazing speakers, and I'm sure that they will be able to answer the questions, or you can share your reflections in the chat tomorrow. So thank you so much to everyone who participated, who wrote in the chat. And thank you so much to Bhima Prabhu. I personally want to thank you, Bhima Prabhu, for reminding us that it's not the externals that truly make the difference when it comes to our Krishna consciousness, but it's the change in our heart. And it's so important for us to remember that.
Do you like how I covered my head here? I mean,
I knew you were doing that. I knew you were.
I think I look very orthodox here. I think this face and this covering will chase all the women away. Then I can concentrate.
Okay. Thank you so much for supporting us. Okay. We love you, everyone, and we hope to see you tomorrow. And remember,